Hello. Today we're doing the task for this week, which is defense mechanisms. Defense mechanisms help one deal with high levels of anxiety, overwhelming emotional situations. These occur unconsciously. However, they can be learned about and recognized as to understand how they occur, and how they impact our lives. Continuing to avoid reality and live with distorted truth becomes a problem, and the original issues need to be handled, or else crises can arise, such as illness, etc. There are different types of defense behaviors. 1. Denial. This is when one doesn't wish to acknowledge or accept reality because it may be too painful, such as denying a problem. 2. Acting out. Showing emotions through extreme behaviors instead of expressing thoughts and feelings through verbal communication. This occurs when one doesn't trust that they will be heard. Hence, they resort to expressing their emotional pain physically. Often, in this scenario, the consequences of the actions are not accounted for or may not be weighed in advance. 3. Rationalization. Justifying and making excuses for one's actions and not being honest about their actual intended motivation, possibly due to fear or intimidation. This is a way of explaining one's behaviors and perceptions. However, these may not be justified or thoroughly thought out or even make sense, though they may be an easy way to avoid having to explain the real explanation behind certain behaviors. 4. Displacement. Redirecting of pent-up feelings for one person or situation onto another person or situation. One must be careful, for the second may not be actually at fault or responsible for the motivation to get angry, therefore creating an awkward situation and unjustly blaming the wrong person, etc. Sometimes this may occur if there are too many things going on in one's life, or there is not enough time to address the correct person with the problematic issues, or direct anger at the correct source, and not at a less threatening place, in which case an original problem will lead to additional problems. 5. Projection. When an individual projects or pretends like their thoughts and feelings belong to someone else in a way of hiding. However, since they do not admit their own thoughts and feelings, this is misattribution. This may occur in complicated situations where one may not have the opportunity or time to explain their own personal point of view, to be honest, or justify their motives. Hence, they are forced to be dishonest and not stand behind their own point of view. It is important to realize one's actual feelings sooner or later in order to be in healthy, long-standing relationships in the social environment, as well as with one's own psyche. Not to get depressed or sad or be overwhelmed psychologically. If one cannot hold a mirror up to their own mind and be true with themselves, they will have arising problems with others and not be able to complete their duties, such as in work or in managing their day, day-to-day lives and addressing issues or projects that must be dealt with. 6. Withdrawal. Becoming passive and holding back something of interest or value from another. This may be done due to an emotional pain that occurred earlier. So vulnerability is being protected consciously, and the unwanted thoughts and negative emotions that went with the bad experiences. Repression. Number 7, blocking out unacceptable, painful thoughts. The memories must be dealt with in order to live healthy daily life. What triggers these fears must be understood and kept under control. A disconnect must be created between random associations and a connection made between the actual source and the negative feelings, in order to understand occurrences in the past and have appropriate and healthy relationships with people with no resentment, instead of blocking negative feelings and overcompensating with cordiality when in fact one feels fear or skepticism. 8. Dissociation. Isolating a painful memory to avoid negative feelings, aka lying to oneself in order to try to make oneself feel less responsible or guilty. 9. Introjection. When a person tries to adopt someone else's values without understanding if they in fact may fit them, aka being a copycat, or being unopinionated, dull, and relinquishing one's own opinions. This may result in one's personal life relationships being affected, since one is always being judged and not given a chance to make up their own minds, to think and come up with their own values, thoughts, and ideas, be more explorative and independent, and to develop more suiting standards for their own lives, due to not being themselves, being someone which they in their minds fabricated and are therefore fake. They may have unhealthy interpersonal relationships and be prone passive aggressive or depressive issues. They do not, due to not being themselves but being someone which they in their minds fabricated, they are therefore fake. They may have unhealthy interpersonal relationships and be prone to passive aggressive or depressive issues if they do not deal with their emotions. 10. Undoing. When trying to superficially repair a thought or behavior that was hurtful or offensive, instead of dealing with it, its complexities and reasons and effects. 11. Regression. When one is under stress or experiencing undesirable feelings, one may do this and readopt behavior from previous stage of life. 12. Intellectualization. Hiding true feelings, focusing on arbitrary imposed beliefs instead. Having logically thought out explanations overpower unconscious feelings that one really has in order to hide their vulnerability for reasons of insecurity or intimidation or fear possibly. 3. Personal examples of defense mechanisms commonly used, how it affects one, and how alternative solutions can be sought to improve one's self. 1. These are written by me. Intellectualization. Sometimes when feeling a certain way, one forces themselves to hide their feelings in order to simplify their life. However, true feelings are lost and one becomes like a robot, which is not a good thing. Therefore, one must try to tap into their own true feelings, not hide them, at least not from their own self. 2. Withdrawal. Sometimes in difficult situations, may be easier to avoid addressing things. This leads to complications and problems arising. Therefore, it is better to be assertive and participate in dealing with issues in life. Displacement. When something bad happens, one's feelings can be incorrectly attributed in a wrong way, causing problems with people which you may not wish to have problems with. Therefore, must be careful, thought out actions and comments in order to not cause further problems and emotional pain. Thank you. Facebook.com Play.